So you're relying on the same system that allowed this shit to happen to be like, well, there's no credible threat right now, so you guys shouldn't be worried. Do you think we're fucking stupid? I came across a tweet and it says as such, right? It says, what if we found out there's no footage other than private ring cameras because Brown University and Providence PD disabled all the local and campus CCTV cameras to hamper ICE enforcement? Now, on the surface of that, you'd think, okay, this is Candace Owens' conspiracy theory for sure, 100%. I believe that. But now, let's do a quick Google search. Does ICE have access to public street view cameras across the United States? Let's just see what this Google search brings up. So it says U.S. Immigration Customs Enforcement can gain access to data from networks of public street-facing cameras primarily through indirect or side door access to systems operated by local state law enforcement agencies. ICE does not have formal direct contact with some major camera network providers like Flock Security, but local police share data with federal agents. Here are some of the key points. Local law enforcement. ICE and Border Patrol agents often make informal requests to local and state police departments to conduct searches on their behalf using local camera systems such as the network of AI-powered automated license plate readers from companies like Flock Safety. Flock Safety Network alone includes thousands of cameras in communities across the U.S., allowing for nationwide searches of vehicle location data. Privacy and legality concerns. This practice has raised significant privacy concerns and is being challenged by civil rights liberty advocates as it can enable mass surveillance without a warrant and may violate state laws or company policies that prohibit using the data for immigration enforcement. ICE also purchases vast amounts of location data from commercial data brokers such as Babel Street Locate X, which is aggregated from various mobile apps, offering another pathway to track individuals without direct government surveillance equipment or warrants. So here are some other surveillance tools. In addition to public camera networks, ICE utilizes a range of other surveillance technologies, including social media monitoring software, facial recognition technology, and local data from smartphones to build profiles of individuals. So I know you guys are probably wondering, like, wait, what does ICE have to do with Brown? And it's not that ICE has to do with Brown, but this theory that I read earlier, right? And I'll read it one more time just in case you guys miss it. Is what if we find out there was no footage other than private ring cameras because Brown University and Providence PD disabled all the local and campus CCTV cameras to hamper ICE enforcement? So now I want to go to this interview of Brett Smiley, who's the mayor of Providence.
So as it stands here today, where do we stand in the city in terms of working with ICE? What is the relationship?
So the Providence Police do not serve as immigration officers. They do not cooperate with ICE. If ICE has a warrant signed by a judge, then we will treat that as valid. But if it's simply an administrative order from ICE, we don't accept that as valid. We know ICE is in our community. We know this is a very scary time for our city, but Providence Police will not be immigration officers in Providence, and all of our residents, and that means all of our residents, should feel comfortable calling the police if they're the victim of a crime or if they need protection from whatever might be going on in their neighborhood.
So I don't want to get into this too, I want to get a lot, but ICE is out in the front. I call Providence Police. They both show up at the same time.
So we have a duty to protect and this is one of the things that the police union said clearly, which is we have an obligation to protect all the residents of our city.
Okay.
And we have an obligation and a desire to de-escalate certain situations.
All right, let me go on the other side, because a lot of people on Facebook today said, so why are you against ICE coming in and getting rid of the criminals who are undocumented in your city? Why are we protecting them, Mayor?
So if a undocumented immigrant who has committed a crime is scheduled for deportation, and ICE does what they're supposed to do, which is go to a judge, get them to sign off on the warrant, we honor that. Okay. We don't want violent criminals in our community, whether they're documented or not.
Okay.
But what has been happening is that ICE has been picking up people without warrants. ICE has been picking up people who have committed no crimes other than being in this country without proper documentation.
All right.
And for us, we don't believe that makes our...
So I want to stop it right there. You notice what he said? Who's committed no other crime besides coming into the country, therefore admitting that it is a crime to come into the country, whether it's civil or not, right? I don't want to have that full debate here, at least not on this episode. But you realize that The guy asked him, if the police get there and ICE gets there, what are we doing? He didn't really give an answer. He's just like, oh, we want to de-escalate and we want to provide safety for our residents. Well, guess what? Police, excuse me, local police, local law enforcement can't get in the way of federal, right? Why do I bring this up? Because of this right here, right? And it may be tongue in cheek, and maybe I'm reading too much into it. That could be a possibility as well. I'm willing to admit that. But he is saying they're willing to not help ICE. So whatever that might be to not help them, as long as it's not something that is egregious, at least that's what I'm assuming that he's willing to do. So again, going back to our original tweet, which was, what if we found out there was no footage other than private ring cameras because Brown University and Providence PD disabled all the local and campus CCTV cameras to hamper ICE. And in this interview, he kind of speaks to, hey, we're not going to help ICE. We want them to have a warrant, even though they don't need to, even though he admitted that coming into the country is a crime. I kind of just wanted to show that clip real quick because it leads into my next point, which is going to be the press conference they had yesterday, right? So today is Wednesday, December 17th. But this press conference to me was really interesting. It's 51 minutes long. We're not going to watch the whole thing. I have exact snippets that I want to cut to. And I just want to start off with this portion right here.
Thank you, Governor. We're also joined tonight by Brown University President Christina Paxson.
Oh, yeah, this is the president, obviously, Christina Paxson. As you said.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to begin by thanking the many law enforcement agencies who continue to work around the clock on this case. It's very impressive. I also want to thank the mayor and the governor for their continued support. The primary point that I wanted to address before we get to questions is that Brown is deeply committed to the safety and security and well-being of our community.
Oh, is it?
And I've been deeply saddened to see people questioning that. We understand that as time goes on, there is maybe a natural instinct to assign responsibility for a tragic event like this. Anxiety.
A natural instinct. I mean, there is response. Somebody has to be held responsible. They killed 2 people, injured 9.
And fear is very natural, but the shooter is responsible. Horrific gun violence took the lives of these students and hospitalized others. And it's deeply sad and tragic that schools across the country are targets of violence. Brown is no exception. We are cooperating fully with law enforcement, and again,
also, while we're showing this video, I just realized this. If you look right here, that looks like a camera, right? And I can't zoom in any further, but you see this little white speck right here on the left-hand side. You heard it here first. So I just wanted to point that out because this is the building that the shooting happened. But we're going to get to cameras in a second. But just wanted to point, there's a camera right there. But let her finish.
We thank the multiple agencies that have been working so hard day and night with increased patrols to keep our campus safe and to investigate this horrific shooting. Thank you.
Thank you, President Paxson. I'll give a couple updates on behalf of the city, and then we'll take your questions.
Yeah, please do. Let's hear these updates.
First, as has been discussed many times, we continue to have enhanced police presence throughout the city of Providence to help bolster the confidence and provide a sense of additional security to our residents. Today, we were aided by neighboring municipalities in Central Falls. Supplemental officers. We're grateful to our neighbors for sticking up and standing up with Providence. The state police continues to be an incredible partner, and I thank the governor and Colonel Weaver for their partnership. Providence Public Schools remain in session. Friday is the last day of school before winter break. Spent some time at our schools again today. As has been the case in the past, the schools in the area of Brown are having regular police presence, and because of the assistance of the Rhode Island State Police, we've been able to provide additional police presence and coverage to other schools in Providence, and we thank them for that. When I was at one of our elementary schools this morning, the faculty were having a brief meeting before kids started to arrive, and in discussion with some of the teachers, I asked how they were doing, and one of the teachers said what I think a lot of us are feeling.
Yeah, what is that?
She said, it's hard, but I'm putting on a good face for the kids. We need to be here for them. And I think that's how a lot of our residents feel right now, which is that
Oh, is it?
we are taking very tentative steps forward, but we're doing it for one another. And so I do want to thank our educators at this time. They're being asked to go to school right now. Our principals are asked to be going to school right now for the sake of the families and the kids. And at that same school, there was a second grader literally skipping to the front door because he's a second grader, and he doesn't know everything that's going on in this scary world right now. And so the strength of the adults has allowed that little kid to skip to school this morning. And so I want to thank all of my fellow residents of Providence for putting on a strong face for the.
Is he serious right now? Is this what he's talking about? This for me, this threw me off completely. So because a second grader is skipping to school, which a second grader, what, first grade, you're what, like 6 or 7? So by second grade, you're 8 years old? Yeah, no shit, a second grader doesn't know what's going on. Who would tell the second grader what's going on? Why would you even tell them what's going on? I'm confused how you can extrapolate the happiness of a second grader and pin that on the entire community when there's a lot of people in the community who are pissed off. I know that because, like I've said before, I lived in Rhode Island for a long time. I went to school in Rhode Island. I know a lot of people in Rhode Island. People are not happy. I even saw a post by somebody in Rhode Island. I won't say who this is, but he said, speed cameras can catch my plate at night in a perfect picture, but you don't have a quality video or photo of the person who committed this? So let's jump to the 17-minute mark.
Just
Right, please.
in terms of cameras inside and outside the engineering building, are those working at all? And if so, why not
Great
release
question.
those videos?
So the video that we showed you came from inside the building, and that's all we had at the moment. That's all we have at this moment. Correct.
Inside the engineering building, though?
I'm sorry.
It's from the outside of the building.
From the
I'm sorry.
outside, so do you have video from
Yes.
inside the engineering
Both
building?
inside and outside. I'm sorry, just outside. That's all we have, not inside. No, I'm sorry, just outside.
Are they going to be released anytime soon and went from inside the building?
That was released already. That was the outside of the building. We released that.
Yeah, let me just jump here and clarify. Okay, so there is for those of you who've been with us before, and I understand not all of you
Attorney
have
General.
been, there is video inside the building. There are cameras inside the building. What we have released to you are videos of this person of interest. So I want to be clear, because later on there may be other videos that get released in the course of a prosecution, likely will be at some point. They show things like chaos after the shooting. What they don't show is this person of interest, and so that's why we haven't released those videos. Okay, what you do have videos from a camera outside of the Brown building and other cameras from around the neighborhood that the good men and women in law enforcement located and have put together in this montage. And to your question, Chris, there are 2 versions of that video, but the bottom line is they, as I understand it, they depict the same thing, and number one, and number two, the agencies are working very, very well together, as I think the special agent in charge would agree.
Attorney General, so you've got a follow-up here.
Just to clarify, there's no clear video of the suspect inside the engineering building.
I just said it.
That's correct.
Now, can I just ask as well, further to the surveillance footage that you have received? I've been here since Saturday speaking to people who are living in the residential buildings around and in the businesses, and many of the store clerks there have told me it wasn't until this morning that the police have actually come to ask them if they had anything that they could offer, any CCTV or any evidence that they could
Great
provide.
question.
Why
Great
did it take
question.
them 3 days for these people to have the police come to them to ask them for assistance?
As I stated earlier, it's a residential block that includes a lot of homes, a lot of different camera footage, and it takes a lot of work in the sense that there's a lot of terabytes that we're looking at in order to be able to analyze it, pull what we need, and sometimes it's just a moment that we need, and it's shorter than somebody taking a breath, so it takes a lot of work. And then so once that leads us to a next location, and so we move strategically, we have to pull the video, download it, analyze it, investigate it, and then move forward. It takes time.
Mr. Attorney General.
Yeah,
You notice how they're always on the defense. And, this could be a part of this could be because obviously something like this has never happened in Rhode Island. They don't deal with this level of maybe news coverage and these kind of press conferences where, they have a lot of people. I mean, just look at the microphones. It's probably, I don't know, anywhere from 10 to 15 different news outlets that are out there. And there's nationwide coverage, right? This is the smallest state in the union. It doesn't deal with things like this. You see the chief of police say something and then the attorney general jumps in. And let me clarify, there's a miscommunication here somewhere, and you can see it at this press conference. There is a communication issue in Rhode Island, and it's a leadership problem. The chief of police, who's the guy who's supposed to be, have all the information, dot all the I's, cross all the T's, is the guy who's fumbling and bumbling through things. It's just, there's just a bunch of little things that I'm pointing out right now that they're gonna all tally up to my ultimate point. And somebody did write in the chat, they said, I'm curious where you're going with this because the post on X makes me curious. It's plausible. And we'll get to that in a second. Let's let this part of the press conference finish.
I just want to jump in there too, because I think I want to clarify
Of course you
in
do,
a sense
Peter.
what the chief is saying.
I
Is
wanna
that you
clarify.
start in the grid, in the first instance, that's closest to Brown. It takes a lot of work to canvass that area, and then you build out as you learn more about the path of travel. So it's entirely possible that tomorrow we'll be canvassing places that we haven't canvassed yet because we're working out with the resources that we have.
Dan, go ahead.
You know what the problem here is the fact that they had a suspect. They thought that was the guy. So much so that somebody leaked the information. And then when they realized, holy shit, this is not the guy, guess what they had to do? Now they had to turn around and actually conduct a real investigation that they weren't conducting because they thought they had the guy. This is a prime example of jumping to a conclusion when you have yet to investigate it thoroughly. And now also I want to point out, notice right here, right? Peter Nerona standing right next to the chief of police. Just watch this. Watch the body language right there, this interaction here.
We have a question and a follow-up.
There's another question
My
he
first
asked.
question, Attorney General, to
Stands in
follow up
front
with
of
my
him.
colleague. This is the question I asked on Saturday night.
To me, this isn't a big deal, but it's like, damn, like how you just gonna stand in front of the guy who they're asking questions to, and they include you and want to ask you questions as well. But that to me was funny. I don't know. Maybe I'm looking into it too much. Maybe there's nothing there. But that was one of those things where it's like the AG felt like, hey, I need to intervene real quick and say something because he's not being very clear. But remember this, earlier this year, this is the same AG who had an assistant AG in his office go to a restaurant, and I made a video on this. Then she got arrested, and she tried to throw her weight around saying, you know who I am? I'm an AG, I'm an AG, I'm an AG. And all Peter did, you know what he said? We're reviewing what happened. This is not how people in my office should act, but we're reviewing it. Now, mind you, in this same office, there was another guy who had a DUI who was working with him. So again, there's just these little bits of things that are like, okay, what the f is going on in Rhode Island?
Which is, so there's cameras in the hallway.
Yeah,
This is the question I asked on Saturday night, which is, so there's cameras in the hallway, but they don't show the suspect, or Brown is not releasing them, or you're not releasing them to us. How does a multi-million-dollar school not have a bunch of cameras in the hallway?
So,
Right.
so let me
Great
let me
question.
try to
Even
explain
better
that.
question.
So, as President Paxton knows, there was a major addition put on that building within the last 5 years or so. That is a modern building attached to a much older one in the back. So it doesn't come as a surprise to me, at least, that there are cameras in the newer part of the building. And there is video footage, okay? So there's the back part of the building, old part, and front part, new part. The shooting occurs in the old part towards the back, out towards Hope Street. In that older part of the building, there are fewer, if any, cameras in that location. I imagine because it's an older building. So as students are fleeing the area of the shooting into the new part of the building, there are cameras in that brand new building that show that chaos. But the only video of the presumed, anticipated, suspected, however you want to define it, person of interest, you have it. We would release it if we thought it would be helpful in identifying this subject because we are relying on the press and public to help get us there. There would be no reason for us to hold it back. We're looking for the best image we can.
Dan got a
This part also is kind of interesting where it's like there's no need to hold anything back because we need the public's help to find this guy, right? What about the students that were inside? There were 40 to 50 students in that classroom. What about them? Where's their testimony? Why is that not being brought up? But why is it that it's so easy to poke holes in some of the things you're saying? That is what's scary about the situation.
Follow up.
Attorney General, thank you for explaining that because it really clarifies it. Although I'm sure some people
Not
watching
really.
would think a multi-million-dollar school with a huge endowment could afford new cameras.
$1 school.
That's my statement. Here's my question. If he's casing that area, Colonel, like you said, he had an intended target, which speaks to the motive. Did he have a target to kill one of the two people that were killed?
We're still investigating it, Dan, and it's something that we're trying to get the answers as well, so.
Patrick?
Yeah. For President Paxson, have you two reviewed any communications to Brown before the shooting that revealed any kind of threat, any kind to anyone at Brown? And then since the shooting, I believe some web pages for students or faculty have been taken down. Is that a response to any external threats to anyone in the community?
We have been working very closely with law enforcement to provide them with all of the internal to Brown information that they need to do this investigation. It's their investigation. They're the professionals. So we're providing information. We're not in the job of reviewing it for them. I know nothing about web pages being taken down as part of this. It's the first I've heard of it.
I'm tired of her saying, I don't know. The number one thing I learned in business is you never tell a customer, I don't know. It's either I'm going to get on that and be able to give you an answer. Actually, I'm glad you asked that. There's some more information that I need to get on that topic, so just hang tight for me. Never say, I don't know. This is a lady who runs Brown University, a Ivy League school. She's the president, and she said now in 2 different press conferences, I don't know. Throw her out with the bathwater. Throw her out with the bathwater immediately, please. This is horrible. Now, before I finish that press conference, what the camera person is talking about, right? What everybody's talking about right now is this student highlight, which is for this guy right here, which if you look at this guy and this guy, that guy and this guy, right? I'm not saying that's him. I don't know. But what they're talking about is this guy. So if you don't know who this dude is, his name is Mustafa Karbouch. I think that's how you say that. Karbouch. This is a quote directly from him. He's 27 years old. As a Palestinian refugee who grew up witnessing the UN as a lifeline for my community, contributing directly to this work was deeply meaningful milestone in my professional journey. I don't want to jump to conclusions, and everything I'm about to say is allegedly. I don't know if he did it. They haven't said he did it, but people are connecting the dots and saying that this is the guy who shot up the school, which is very different from this kid right here, who was the original person that they said did the shooting. What am I getting at here? Now, you notice this page is currently not available, so I'm gonna go back just to show you, because all I did was I put Mustafa Karbouch into Google, and this popped up immediately from Brown University. You click on it, and guess what? The page is currently not available. So you know, anything on the internet lives forever. So all I did was I went to archive.org, and I pulled this up, and immediately this is the page that I got here. I'm not gonna read this because this is kind of long, but pretty much what this is this gentleman went and did an internship in New York. He was working with ICG, which is International Crisis Group, and so they deal with the UN and they talk about crises that are happening around the world. And so he had the ability to be able to be part of a group who did a mock crises presentation to some of these people in this group and all this stuff, and he got to speak about it. One thing I did notice is when I read this article, right? And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I want to read a part of it. It says, Mustafa spoke extensively about their positive relationship with the supervisor. At the beginning of the program, they stated that their supervisor asked about their interests, excuse me. But if you notice what they're not doing, the words that they're not using he, they're not using him, they're using they, their, and at one point in this article, they, them. I don't know, guys. I think you guys are getting where I'm going.
In the back, yep.
You want people to feel safe. Can you say this person of interest is no longer in Providence, no longer in Rhode Island? Are they out of the state? Do we have any sense at all?
I can't speak to the investigation, and if there's a follow-up for either the general or the colonel, I'm sure they'd be happy to answer it. But I'll restate what I've said several times now, which remains true as another day passes, since the initial call came in at 4:05 p.m. on Saturday, we have not received, and this is now updated with another 24 hours have passed,
Okay.
a single credible, specific threat to the city related to this event, and as far as I know, to the state. And
I'm gonna go into a close-up real quick. You didn't receive a threat before the shooting, so you're relying on the same system that allowed this shit to happen to be like, well, there's no credible threat right now, so you guys shouldn't be worried. Do you think we're fucking stupid? Bro, I don't get it. It's like, what? I'm gonna just chill out. Let's let him finish. Maybe he says something that, I couldn't predict.
and I know that this is a question that many people are struggling with, and it's difficult conversations that I've had with many, many of my constituents, including a very anxious parent this morning. The best information we have is that there is no credible, actionable, specific threat that has occurred since Saturday. And in order to enhance and ensure the safety of our community, we have stepped up law enforcement efforts throughout the city in a precautionary measure, in an abundance of caution, to try to give comfort and confidence to people who have to take the steps forward in their daily lives, who have to take their kids to school, who have to get to work. And that is the honest answer and the best answer we have at this time as the days continue to pass.
Mr. Mayor, with that, can you tell us where you believe he may be? Is he in the state? Is he in the area?
That question was asked as well, so Colonel, I'll let you answer that.
Yeah, you're going to pass it off.
We investigate that. That's not, listen, we're looking for the same answers as the mayor stated. We haven't really received any credible info as far as any other calls for that nature, but I'll tell you that.
They have nothing. They have nothing. Nothing. I have more than them. They have nothing. Nothing. Not even lint in the fucking case, yo. This is crazy. This is America. This is crazy that you could have 800 cameras on a campus and nothing was caught. They don't have anything. Doesn't that make you wonder? Doesn't that make you then go back to the post that I showed you on X that literally said the fact that they don't have anything, is that because they deactivated the cameras so it hinders ICE? This is
We
crazy.
have enhanced our presence in a part of the city, and we're using every resource we have, and every call that comes in, we're responding to it immediately.
Are you working with any neighboring states?
It's Pat, so we're working our way across the room here. Pat.
Pat Ford, Coalition Radio. In a case involving a hit-and-run accident in the vicinity of Brown University that was litigated by the Office of Attorney General Nerone in 2023, Brown University Police Detective John Remke stated that the university maintains several thousand video surveillance cameras and license plate readers on Brown University campus and surrounding campus. That is in addition, obviously, to the Providence Police Data Center. Attorney General Nerone, your department litigated that case, ostensibly giving your department a thorough understanding of the landscape. Why isn't there more video or metadata, and were those cameras all operational?
Yeah, I can't speak to what was operational or wasn't, but I will say this, that...
Of course you can.
And I've answered this question a few times today, and I'll try to do my best to answer it again. So somebody reported, it might have been the Globe, that there are 800 cameras or so on the campus. It might have been the Globe. 1,200. But this building is on the very edge of the campus.
More excuses.
If you know, I know that building well. I had two sons who spent a good chunk of their lives there. It's at the very edge of the campus. It's not in the heartland of the campus. It's not the green. And there are several greens. It's not any of the three greens as I remember them. So it's right on the edge of the campus, and where the shooting took place is at the very edge of that building on the edge of the campus. And so, as those of you who know Providence know, you are very quickly into a residential neighborhood, which is why the video footage you're seeing of this defendant's,
Look at the Colonel.
Person of interest movements,
That is a very wrong word.
Pre and post shooting are in that neighborhood. So the building is on the edge of the Brown campus. Where the shooting took place is at the edge of that building, and then you're very quickly into a residential neighborhood. There is no footage. I'll try to say it again. There is no footage that depicts this individual that would be useful in identifying him that we have not released to you. And I think you can tell from, frankly, the not very helpful quality of the initial footage that our standard is pretty low. If we thought it was at all helpful, we would have and will release it.
John.
Listen, I know Providence. I spent a lot of my life in Providence. I spent a lot of time in that area as well, especially before I moved out of Rhode Island. And that is very true. But I want to show you guys something else that I found. So, I jumped on Google Maps, okay? Now, if you look at where this red dot is on the bottom portion of my screen, that is where the shooting happened, okay? That's the building, okay? That is the hall where it happened. Remember, he said the closer part to Hope Street. So the only part that's close to Hope Street is this part here, where the little yellow guy is. That's Hope Street. I just want to show you right in front of this building. See this thing where the gray box is highlighting? That's a camera. Okay, that's one of those box systems that you press the button and it'll immediately dispatch police. So there's one right there. Now I'm going to show you the other block, and that has a camera on the top right up here. This is a camera. I'm going to show you on the other side of this block right here. Here's another example of what I'm talking about. Do you guys see what this is right here? You see this? What is that? Oh, that's a camera. So this corner right here, which I showed you guys yesterday in the video I made, or a couple days ago. You see this? That's a camera right here. That's a camera. It's a traffic pattern camera. But those cameras also get the sidewalk. So that's that corner. Now let's go to the corner of Waterman and Hope, which is, again, another light. 4 cameras here. 4 different cameras. There's a camera right there. There's a camera right here. And then, obviously, as you can tell, there's another camera right here. See? Boom. Camera. Now, I did a little bit more digging on Brown University, and I put this up on Facebook, and what I said was 800 cameras, $7 billion endowment, $635 million cash on hand. It costs $71,000 a year to go to Brown. For the president to then tell me, I don't know, when she's asked what the students were doing in the room. Imagine if the shooter was a student who was going to Brown, and not only that, but was also part of, the non-binary community and wanted to be called they, them, and all that stuff, on top of being a Palestine immigrant. That'd be one hell of a story. Also, why are you not showing us the footage of inside? I'm not saying the footage of the blood and stuff like that, because nobody wants to see that. But we're talking about photos from inside.
Okay, so we still don't know what this guy yelled. We're hearing multiple reports about him yelling something. Why can't we hear from any of these eyewitnesses? I've only heard one eyewitness say the guy had a long gun. And so he also said he looked the shooter directly in the eye, and then the shooter didn't kill him.
But he had a mask on, too.
Why didn't the shooter shoot the guy if this is a random attack? He's just spraying bullets around. Why didn't he shoot the guy he came eye to eye with? That's weird. We're also hearing interesting reports that the vice president of the Brown Republicans might have been shot multiple times. We still don't understand if this was a targeted shooting, and they're not giving us any clue about that. We also need to know, do you need to swipe a card before you get into this building? We're hearing you have to swipe cards. So is this guy a student? Did he have access to the building? Is he an international student? How many international students do they have at Brown University? It's been a very thorny issue, the issue of the Palestinian situation. There's been a lot of action, a lot of protests at Brown University. Does that concern them? Is there an international angle that they're concerned about? Still don't know about that. How about the one reporter who asks, well, we talked to a bunch of the residents and businesses that are a block away, and they say the cops never came to ask them for the Ring camera videos until this morning. So 4 days later, we're still not really flooding the zone. We're not flooding it with police. We're not flooding it with information. And the president of the university, I mean, everybody's talking about these websites being taken down.
Right.
And she has no idea. Right afterwards, in the aftermath, immediately, she had no idea what the class was.
Right.
Mm-hmm. How is she, the leader of the school, so unaware about the basics of this case? It's just frustrating.
It's almost as if they want to be.
Yeah.
It's mounting. It's not making sense. I don't get it. We're going to eventually get to the bottom of it. The internet's undefeated.